Ta-da!
Ta-da!
I adjust my invisible tie at you.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I tilt my hat.
Which is not invisible.
Not invisible. Not at all. Not at
Not at
all
all. Not
invisible.
at all.
This is
At
like
all.
3 feet wide.
100%. 100% not invisible.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our experiential storytelling event. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Larissa. I am on Chinook lands on so-called Portland, Oregon. And my people are from India and Europe. My pronouns are they, them. And I'm a co-director of Animist Arts. And we are a project dedicated to creating conditions for liberatory relating through art, ritual, and play.
And I am Dare, and I use they, them pronouns. I am also a co-director of Animist Arts. Today, we are offering an educational storytelling experience, edutainment, if you will. We do lots of other things, though, like host courses, community events, training programs for individuals and groups, and other art projects. At the end of this storytelling experience, there will be about 5 to 10 minutes where there will be no talking, just integrating, resting together, and that will be followed by a reflection practice and a Q&A about our design process. Okay, just so you know, there will be like silent, go to the bathroom time, and then we'll come back and we'll do a sort of chitty chat thing. All right, you should see on your screen right now the ingredients for an Animist Arts cake. And I'm just going to read these descriptions to you right now. Number 1, non-dual animism. Number 2, queer ecology. Number 3, disability justice. Number 4, play as art, as learning, as theater, as somatics, as craft, as exploration, as death practice. Number 5, knowledge of neurobiological trauma, addiction, and healing patterns that include and go deeper and beyond Western attachment and polyvagal theories. And number 6, a harm reductive, interdependence, and impermanence centered approach to dealing with racism, misogyny, capitalism, and anti-Blackness from mixed race queer people. We want to take a moment to talk about our upcoming course. And briefly touch some aspects of how we are holding these terms and principles that you sort of see and might hear us say that you're like, what are you talking about? And of course, you can get more info at this link down here, animistarts.art/BSM.
All right. So, non-dual play is a way of inhabiting true presence or vital space, terms that we like to use, which allows us to be available for more mutually beneficial actions and dialogues in a given situation. This is creativity and engagement beyond human concepts of right and wrong, or good or bad. It is organic deviance, where uncontrollable elements like atmosphere, bodily limitations, and life cycles are contributors to beauty and artistry. This term encompasses flexibility, responsiveness, trauma-informed creative expression, responsible improvisation, rhythm, listening, and an overall design process called devising. Animist arts devising is improv plus embodied research or ritual, performance as a means of collaborating, dialoguing, and discovering inside of seen and unseen realms, learning through play, learning through making games, devising play, finding games, finding choice and optionality inside of discomfort, making up and breaking rules, and co-creating temporary dreams. It is recontextualizing trance, or organic and rhythmic states of consciousness that have helped humans revitalize their ecological communities and manage fear states. Devising as metabolizing is an answer, in a relative sense, to the spell of colonial psychopathology. Colonial psychopathology, or modern Western's culture's attempt at explaining epidemic levels of human suffering. This often operates as a spell of extreme complication and confusion for the natural consequences of being severed from basic social, spiritual, ecological needs.
Because nature is so unavoidably intelligent, even within the industries of psychology and wellness, many people break through into vital spaces where they receive true medicine and realignment. They heal despite the overcomplications and limited view of the practitioners and institutions. This natural phenomenon, a return to wholeness, can be fostered and cultivated much more directly through responsible animist relational skills and meaningful creative participation. In this upcoming course, we will be going through a targeted introduction to how to use these forms to craft experiences, games, for yourself and others, and adapt to various situations without feeling like you can't play or like you can't practice. The forms and techniques are also the basic seeds for how we designed this show. And there will be a very brief time at the end for some questions, but for more personalized or intensive inquiries, please use these contact forms at animistarts.art/contact or this Gmail address, chaosandwonder@gmail.com, and where the first A in chaos is the number 8. Okay.
We are going to enter a story together. And today that story is called Nondual Play in the Queer Universe for Sad, Scared Hoomans. You will come across several participatory activities or prompts that we will explore for 1 minute. In order to enter this story, you're going to have to transform yourself from an audience member into one of these 3 roles. Sparkling, concerned ranger, exhausted, sensuous teacher, or wild, confused artist, or something else that you feel like making up. In a moment, you will be asked to choose, and then if you are willing, please add it to your name in your name box in your little Zoom square. So if my name is Mohan and I choose Sparkling Concerned Ranger, I will click the drop-down menu in my square and select Rename, and then change my name to Mohan, Sparkling Concerned Ranger. And even though we're not seeing a lot of people's videos, it is still a required transformational ritual act. So we'll know. Okay, you have 1 minute. Please choose a role and then transform yourself by changing your name. Are there any burning things happening in the chat there?
There are, and I don't want to look at them.
Okay, so if people aren't able to change their name, you can write it on your forehead, you can write it on a post-it note and stick it to your computer screen. Uh, enjoy.
Don't let it be a barrier, please. Yeah, here we go. Wonderful. You are transformed. You are. Now, to take this transformation one step deeper, please spend this next minute adjusting how it is that you are showing up. How do you feel now that you are a ranger, teacher, artist, etc.? What qualities are present in your system and your body now? Please take 1 minute to solidify your transformation. And yes, every single other person should have their video off. Please take 1 minute to solidify your transformation. Starting no. Okay, that's 1 minute. And while you were transforming, the story began.
We find ourselves on a bus. There are all kinds of seating on this bus. Beds, open floor space with cushions, couches, chairs, and massage tables. A variety of textures cover the seating and the floor and ceiling. Soft and silky, scratchy, knobby, velvety, hot, cold, smooth, and rough. Each of us is precisely where we need to be and free to move at any time. We peer through the windows and see that we are traveling through an amazing array of phenomena, at times clear and distinct, like familiar landscapes that emerge suddenly, and in the next moment, a rich blackness, shapeless, nothing. Shapes and forms and figures appear and then dissolve. Was that a microbe or a galaxy? Are we underground or in space? As soon as we think we have identified something about our surroundings, they change. For some of us, this is beautiful. For others, frightening. And for some others, both at the same time.
Yes, good people, the sweet spot is to feel how it is both frightening and beautiful, says Rudy, one of our tour guides. Everything is moving, everything is dancing in and out with the experiences of creation and destruction, life and death, the sun and the moon, the worms in the ground, your bus drivers and bartenders, your internets and instagooms, your bad feelings, your good feelings. Nothing is left out. Just like all organisms on this planet, we are in the middle of an ongoing and intricate conversation between our relatively autonomous bodily experience and everything else. Our internal landscape, the surrounding ecology, which includes social systems, the subtle realms that bind it all together, and everything that is born between or as a result of these various elements.
Our other tour guide, Tootie, chimes in. It's time to introduce you to the first item you will find in the backpacks that we have provided for you, the time goggles. Tootie pulls out what looks like simple sunglasses, but are clearly so much more. If at any time you need to slow down time, you take these out, you unfold them, and wear them somewhere on your body. Most people go for the eye area, but really it works no matter what. These are handy for any moments where you start to feel like, oh God, or that's too much, or I don't understand. You just put the goggles on, and all of that slows way down. And what happens when time slows down? You get an opportunity to play instead of freak out. It's okay to be scared, but freaking out is different. Freaking out is like shouting at the universe, "This can't be happening! This can't be happening!" You see, the queer universe, which includes you and all your stuff, is very sensitive, intelligent. And when we visit unknown, unfamiliar, or uncomfortable places, we will scare off all the wildlife if we are screaming on the inside. So let's try it out together. On the count of 3, put your time goggles on and we will slow down time. 1, 2, 3.
Different time goggles. Oh, different time goggles.
Oh, different. Oh, they've got different versions.
Got a whole bunch.
Oh, nobody told me.
Yeah. You were not at that last meeting.
No, I was totally playing hooky.
All right. In your role as teacher, ranger, artist, or whatever, how does it feel when time slows down and you can access more playfulness, more options? Take 1 minute to find 2 new feelings and where they are located in your body. Nicely done, everyone. So remember to pull those out anytime you need them, okay? Okay.
Okay.
All right. How do we decide how to interact with what is going on around us? Where do the patterns and habits that define our lives come from? And if they are making us miserable, how do we change them? There is growing research that indicates that key systems in our body, like our immune system, nervous system, and endocrine system, are making constant, prolific, and incredibly fast predictions and interpretations based on both immediate sensory information, like a gurgling tummy or the sound of water nearby, and our past experiences or past sensory learning. Those predictions and interpretations, which for the most part are happening outside of our awareness, inform the choices we make, and establish the patterns and behaviors we develop in relation to our experience and the world. Living organisms are interested in having their predictions line up with reality to a certain degree. They seek to minimize prediction error or uncertainty in order to maintain their well being or improve their conditions. Modernized humans have a habit of talking about the natural world only in terms of brutal survival. So often we assume that everything is straining to make its life easy and predictable 100% of the time. But what if the central guiding force was not just staying alive, but also playing and learning? That in fact, staying alive, could not occur without playing and learning. For example, the children of many organisms are compelled to move from one sensory experience to the next, tasting, touching, smelling, and investigating, entering states of complete immersion as they encounter all the phenomenon around and within them. They seek out a diverse array of situations that give them lots of feedback about how the world works and their place in it. And although this brings essential learning, it is also highly enjoyable. It's play for the sake of play, it's delight for the sake of delight. We might be seeking to minimize uncertainty to a certain degree in order to continue our bodily experience. But as our young ones and those indescribable qualities of play remind us, what is a bodily experience for, if not to enjoy the play of natural principles that allow us and every other being to be here? This wild reality would not function if everything was trying to eradicate uncertainty. Instead, we can say that we are seeking a just right balance of mystery and predictability in order to participate well in this playscape of form, the senses, and the subtle.
Our bus settles to a stop, and Tootie announces, "We have arrived at the South Park blocks of downtown Portland. If we're lucky, we might spot some of the crows of consequence. They are guardians of non-dual perception, of being able to sense with your whole self, instead of just pretending like parts of you don't exist, or pretending like parts of reality that you don't like don't exist. For the most part, there's nothing to worry about. Just don't say the words trauma healing or light worker. We've had a few incidents." In the park, wind moves through the trees and humanoids walk many different kinds of four-legged barking creatures. The light is low, and dozens of crows are cawing and gathering in a row of trees. Their bodies create a massive activity, like roiling storm clouds. The sound of their wings and calling out sends ripples of feeling throughout the group. For some, an exciting feeling, for others, a feeling of hesitation, and for some others, a feeling of both combined.
A traveler from the group named Kid Darwin begins to point frantically and call out, "They're fighting! They're fighting! I know what they're doing! They're fighting! Survival of the fittest! Survival of the fittest! I know what I'm talking about! My parents told me! Survival of the fittest! Survival of the fittest!" Rudy and Tootie cringe and put on their time goggles. The frantic expression on Kid Darwin's face begins to fade as a strange murmur rises in the air. Between the sound of wings and deep caws emerges a collective crow voice, growing gradually louder and clearer with each of Kid Darwin's heartbeats. "You see what you want to see? You see what you want to see? You see what you want to see. Screeching, the crows of consequence surround Kid Darwin and with surgeon-like precision pluck out both their eyes. Kid Darwin grabs at their face as though there were something, anything they could do to get their eyes back. The collective crow voice croons. Consequence follows you like a dream, urging you to wake. Consequence follows you like a dream, urging you to wake. Consequence follows you like a dream, urging you to wake.
They surround Kid Darwin once more, and when the cloud of crows parts, we see that a new eye has blossomed above and between where the old pair used to be. This eye is looking up and back, as though peering into an unseen realm. Where there was panic in their body, there is now steadiness. Where there was certainty, there is now wonder. The crows settle in the trees above, and Kid Darwin moves to speak. I've been on this lonely road so long. How could I have known what this feeling did to me? Absent in my own history. A lonely bird under the sun. A lonely bird under the sun. Fly me now to what is done. A lonely road becomes the prayer. Rudy and Tootie and the rest of the group go to Kid Darwin, leaving gifts of food for the crows of consequence. In the human realm, we encounter not only the actions and behaviors of people, but also the thoughts, concepts, emotions, beliefs, and narratives that are preconditions for those actions and behaviors. All cultural patterns are based on shared concepts, stories, beliefs, and sensory experiences. This process of sensory experience becoming shared concepts, beliefs, and cultural behaviors is not fixed, but open to change whether we like it or not. This is an absolute necessity since we are embedded in webs of interdependent relationships that all tug on one another, that can express themselves in infinitely diverse ways. If we don't apply the skills of adaptation and responsiveness to our real context, then we are gesturing toward a fantasy or an idea of reality that is not backed up by anything other than our own attachment. And we, and likely many others, will suffer in that misattunement. The better we are at respecting principles of change, the easier time we will have with allowing shifts to take place in our perception and behavior.
And now a word from our sponsors. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the weight of the world? Have you ever felt that the legacy of your ancestors was just unfair? Introducing Escapalon from Bypassero in convenient horse-sized tablets, made from the ground-up bones of your ancestors so that you can get what they wouldn't give you. in compliance with Proposition 349 of the Overpopulation of Cemetery Grounds Act, also available as a nasal powder. Side effects might include, but are not limited to, being so powerful, going to CrossFit 7 days a week, posting it on social media, leaving a cult, joining a new cult, misinterpreting quotes from Black and Indigenous people, cherry-picking history, endlessly talking about your trauma. Side effects may vary. Consult your mortician before attempting any heavy remembering. Escapolon from Bypassero, your trusted source for eradicating painful memories.
Back on the bus, Tootie announces, "Our next stop is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Please enjoy this informative summary from National Geographic." The entire Great Pacific Garbage Patch is bounded by the North Pacific Subtropical Gyre. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration defines a gyre as a large system of swirling ocean currents. Increasingly, however, it also refers to the garbage patch as a vortex of plastic waste and debris broken down into small particles in the ocean. The North Pacific Subtropical Gyre is formed by 4 currents rotating clockwise around an area of 20 million square kilometers. 7.7 million square miles, the California Current, the North Equatorial Current, and the Kuroshio Current, and the North Pacific Current. The area in the center of a gyre tends to be very calm and stable. The circular motion of the gyre draws debris into this stable center, where it becomes trapped. A plastic water bottle discarded off the coast of California, for instance, takes the California Current south toward Mexico. There it may catch the North Equatorial Current, which crosses the vast Pacific. Near the coast of Japan, the bottle may travel north on the powerful Kuroshio Current. Finally, the bottle travels eastward on the North Pacific Current. The gently rolling vortexes of the eastern and western garbage patches gradually draw in the bottle.
As we approach the inner swirls of the trash vortex, we see a vast network of trash that has been woven together with nets and shoelaces and plastics into a floating island several miles across. Rudy and Tootie steer us to its edge and we disembark. We wind our way through garbage heaps dozens of feet high, full of tiny life forms wiggling and rolling and crawling. The scent in the air is salty synthetic, unknown objects bleached and entangled together. Suddenly, a great thumping rolls through the nearby trash mountains, as though something of huge proportions is stumbling towards us. All manner of creatures skitter away in all directions as the sound grows closer. Tootie and Rudy put on their time goggles and motion for us to do the same as we slowly back away. An impossibly large red object begins to cross over the mountainous trash piles, looking like a great clawed spider leg, searching for footing, and another claw leg, and another claw, until...
Hey, y'all! I thought I heard visitors.
Towering above us is a shining red being with many eyes and many legs, a cross between lobster, spider, and bird. Around her waist is a skirt made of industrial fishing nets. She barrels down the trash hill to our group.
My name is Grandma Red. Welcome to Trash Vortex Island. You all must have traveled quite a ways, huh? That's the story with a lot of things here.
Grandma Red looks expectantly at all of us, her many legs clicking and shuffling through trash as she speaks.
Why don't you follow me? I've got a little tea house just around the corner with some fine things for you. Rotting shoe funk ganache, 50-year-old Twinkie reduction, Trash Vortex Island specialties.
The tea house is in a cave large enough for Grandma Red to comfortably stand at full height. A fire burns next to a pile of coral bone cauldrons, and in the center of the cave is a pool of clear, deep water. She puts some things on the fire and has us gather around.
You have come to a place of great mystery, little ones. Never before has this planet seen such a place. I used to be a deep ocean dweller, hardly showing myself to the sun. When the humans came along, I mostly hid myself, with a few exceptions, because I knew they would be too frightened to see such as me. All that's changed now, though. There's too many monstrous things taking place for me to stay hidden all the time. Too many things needing my help. Much of humankind is too distracted to notice me, anyhow. So I do what I can, building this island for drifting creatures, listening to the stories they bring with them, and helping them find something other than plastic to eat. And listening, of course, to the great vortex of the mother waters, our ocean. Oh, that's the tea bubbling. I'll be right back.
Grandma Red turns to her fire as Rudy and Tooty turn toward the group. Everyone, please take out the next item in your backpack, your very own listening device. Rudy pulls out a seashell and puts it up to their ear. This, along with your time goggles, will allow you to begin to hear not only what the creatures around you are saying, but also what many people these days don't normally pay attention to: the voice of the air, the water, the trash, your own body, and the subtle realms of ancestors and spirits. This listening device makes it so that it's like your entire body is one giant ear. Bring the listening device to your ear, your heart, or your belly. What is it like to listen as though your body is one big ear? Identify two new feelings that come up as you do this. According to biology and complex systems, our nervous systems require a precise kind of stimulation in order to extend its general capacity to be able to handle more of life without registering as a threat, to be more relaxed, alive, available, and responsive, as opposed to constantly bracing and living inside of hypervigilance or numbness. We need experiences that have that right balance of uncertainty and predictability, of sustainable risk taking, also known as play, in a good enough setting. This is our system's way of learning and building confidence in its ability to hang with what's happening. In the best circumstances, this becomes non-dual play, where we move past rigid binary categories to describe and attempt to control reality, and instead become vital players in a reality that can reveal itself fully. Grandma Red brings a few bone cauldrons, steaming and full, back to the group and picks up where she left off.
It's really something the situation we're in, isn't it? I've spoken to many of the parents around here who had been feeding their children bits of plastic, thinking they were small sea creatures, until they starved and their stomachs burst. The confusion. It took me ages to try to explain to them what plastic was, a byproduct of the ancestral oil layer of the earth. Taking what the earth has been digesting for millions of years and then turning it into something so undigestible. I don't know how you do it. A marvel, really.
As Grandma Red speaks, our listening devices allow us to become aware of more than just her words. Little bubbles of color and energy rise and burst just before she utters the phrases, as though the spoken word is carried on a tiny planet full of feeling. Sometimes the air seems to respond to what she says, drawing in closer or making more space. Everything begins to shimmer, like the world is settling into itself and coming alive.
Of course, there are a few bacteria people who aren't complaining, free to intermingle with each other among the floating plastics and to grow strong. I hear cholera could be making a comeback. Some are even making a meal out of all these undigestibles. What is good for some is bad for others. What is bad for many is usually bad for most, but still good for some. What is bad for all is still good for something else that isn't here yet, one way or another.
A member of the group named Kishori is listening so well that she begins to hear the communication between things she never considered before. The blood in her veins talking to the cells in her body, the light from the sun whispering to the top of her head and her face, the shadows calling more darkness to themselves. Hearing Grandma Red speak is like hearing a secret orchestra playing music to a part of you you forgot was there, but is actually the heart of you. Kishori senses a glistening web between it all, each thing a combination of pure desire and searching wonder.
What goes around comes around, isn't that what they say? You throw away a bottle cap and it sails past Mexico and Japan and then makes its way here. And then colonies of the bacterias bloom on all those things and drift their way through the oysters and fishes back into your bellies. Everything is making a home the best way that they can. And home has a life of its own, a changing thing, a moving target.
Kishori watches and listens as the word home sends tendrils of rainbow light through the glistening web, and a deep cosmic tone travels toward her from the horizon. Everything she is rises to meet this moment, and then she disappears. Where Kishori ends up is utter darkness. A soft but booming pulse surrounds her and loosens her sense of having a body, and what she thinks is her mind. Slightly disturbed, she remembers how the time goggles made her feel and slows down the spark of panic in her chest. After panic reduces itself to plain feeling, what before had felt disturbing now feels like an invitation. With just this little shift, a wave of gladness rolls through the dark, and Kishori begins to play with disintegration. She giggles and says goodbye as her fingers and toes fill with tingling and melt away into space. Her skin and bones follow, as do her blood and organs, leaving their radiant energies to dance freely in the vast, unencumbered space. A deep sigh, carried over by millions of ancestors who came before her as one breath, moves through her and scatters the rest of her completely.
Back in the cave with Grandma Red, a few group members notice that Kishori is missing. Where's Kishori? They ask. More group members start looking around. Where's Kishori? Have you seen Kishori? Listening devices are abandoned as fear starts to enter the group body. Kishori, did you get buried under trash?
Kishori, did you fall into the ocean?
Kishori, did you get bored and leave us?
Kishori, did you eat plastic and die?
And now, a word from our sponsors. Infinigrief by Hamster Corp. Be sad forever, good people. Get in shape the old-fashioned way by running in circles. Using state-of-the-art VR and our patented Go Nowhere technology, you can get in shape faster than a caveman running away from a saber-toothed tiger during the Holocene, faster than witches escaping the Inquisition, faster than the Founding Fathers outrunning accountability. Wearing the bonus HeartPath Vulnerability Monitor, you will escalate your empathy at 28 times the average rate, leading to profound insights about your personalized trauma type. Infinigrief. Your sadness is doing something.
Kishori spontaneously reforms and emerges from the deep, clear pool of water in the middle of Grandma Red's cave. She grins at her group mates, the direct experience she inhabits beaming through her gaze. I am Kishori speaks from darkness, she says, and to anyone truly listening, it sounds like the pure joy of children waking up to remember that they are also ancient. Her group mates look at her with two wide, searching eyes. Everyone has abandoned their time goggles and listening devices, even Rudy and Tootie. They say to her, What? Your name is what? Kishori Perfect Princess? I'm so glad we found you.
What? Your name is what? Kishori lost in darkness? Did someone hurt you?
What? Your name is what? Kishori can't help herself? Are you broken now?
Hypnotized by their own emotion and story, the group reinforces their behavior and bursts into song. When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always pretend to be listening.
When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always pretend to be caring.
When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always defend your right to be right.
Your right to be right.
Your right to be right.
Your right to be right. Think about how you listen when you feel really connected and playful versus how you listen when you don't want to feel certain things or when you think there's a problem to solve. Disturbed by the incoherent noise of the group, Grandma Red leaves her cauldrons and begins to herd everyone with her massive fishnet skirt. Once she has us semi-tumbling into a loose pile, she gently lowers her great underbelly on top of the heap, like a doting spider chicken warming her eggs.
Why is it that so often when we're having a hard time, we forget the things that would help us the most? Rudy and Tooty look sheepishly at their discarded time goggles and listening devices. When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always be friends with that feeling. When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always believe life is speaking. When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always just lay on the ground. Lay on the ground. Lay on the ground. Lay on the ground. Lay on the ground.
As Grandma Red sings, the pressure from her great underbelly increases. Our eyes bulge and blood rushes to our faces, as one by one each of our heads is popped clean off.
Ah, Grandma Red says, "Isn't that better? You go and play now." She lifts herself off of the group and starts to tend to her fire, with no other choice but to respond to our new circumstance of having our heads separated from our bodies. We play.
Have you ever really wanted a nice and clean resolution and not gotten one? What did you do when you didn't get it? What would happen if you learned how to not want it so badly?
Okay, everybody, coming back from your rest. And we're going to move into a short reflection practice. And the prompt is, and maybe Dare, you can type this in the chat, what moments in the show are sticking with you? Write a 5-phrase or 5-word poem about it. And we'll do this for 5 minutes. Can we have that nice sound back on again? Those birds and things and Okay, I think it's time to get out of the presentation. It's done. It's over.
Presentation is done.
That means
Is done.
we can have video on again.
Yep.
We can see
Right.
your faces.
Yeah, you can turn your video on if you want to, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, faces. Yeah.
Now you appear at the top of the screen.
Hi. Yeah.
Many of you appear.
Yeah. People in their houses. People in their rooms.
I see some people I know. My God, thank you for coming to my show. My God.
Yeah, that's
Thanks for coming
nice.
to my show, people. So kind of you. So kind of you.
Oh, yes. The rangers and the teachers and the artists. And yeah, for anybody wondering, we are probably gonna make the recording available. We're figuring out the details of that. But yes, if you missed part of the show, there will be a place to see it.
It's a very long commercial for our course. Tips and tricks from the pros. It's a very long Instagram reel for our show.
Oh, yes, the
For our
longest.
course. Yep.
Okay, let's open it up. Does anybody want to share their poem? You can put it in the chat or you can come on the mic. It's gonna popcorn it. I don't know if I can't really, it's gonna, okay, Duncan, I see your hand, I see your hat, and you're winning right now. You're winning. You go, you go.
You see me? You see me right now.
I see you right now.
Okay, so my poem. Here we go. From the Sparkling Ranger that I am. Hunger rises, tightly woven fabric.
Yeah.
It's funny the way that the word fabric kind of grew for me in that, because it was like spoken like fab and Rick, like shit, kind of like Rick, but it's like a celebration, like the brick. Fabric. Okay, thank you.
I feel it. Thank you. Others.
Can we go?
Yeah, get in there.
Yeah.
Slow down. Let heads pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, raising hand is useful too.
Yeah.
Sweet gum.
Okay, I want to make sure it's okay that mine is actually much longer than 5 phrases.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay, all right. When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always make friends with that feeling. When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always believe life is speaking. When you're feeling a feeling you don't want to be feeling, you can always just lie on the ground. Lie on the ground. Path is prayer, is home, is darkness, is death practice, is play, is love, is theater, is body. Oh, you exhausted, sensuous teacher, you. I see your steepled fingers and raised eyebrows and bouncing hips. Oh, I love and trust and honor you. Feel that soft smile? That is the coming home. Oh, see your hair of Ashkenaz, your sandy mountain nose. Your legs are black walnut and oak, and your toes are roots in loam. Your blood flows with mycelial knowing. Oh, the sense spheres spin.
Thank you. We got one in the chat. Listen with your whole body. Slow time with your glasses. You might lose your head, and that's okay. Bad things still feed things that ain't here yet.
I got one.
Great.
I thought the ads were fucking hilarious. So yeah, your sadness is doing something. Stay sad forever. Recruit your friends to be sad too. A pyramid scheme of sadness, madness, and grief in your hip pocket. Yeah, inspired by.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to, do a time check. I think we said we would go till 7, and it's almost 7, right? Is that
Okay.
true, Larissa?
Yes, it's true. It's almost 7. So knowing us, we'll probably go a little bit past 7. So let's just do these last 2 poems that are in the chat, and then we can open it up for questions. Too long poem, dark, help, add, comma, meaning, building, built, extract beta, DNA, boot up, some relief, sleep, data compressed, neurogamma, continuously opening, alpha, no, beta, happiness, no, no, yes, no, seeking, edge of the universe, saving, memory, tale of this something, beginning, spinning, glowing, burning out, ending, darkness, reiterate. Woven trash piles, undigestible homecoming, view into story, into beyond, ads are also within reality, dissolving quality of listening, changes, so not special trying anymore, the tour guides also forget. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, go put your kiddo to bed. Thank you for being here. Okay.
So yeah, to sort of like ride the wave home, you can obviously leave if you have to, and so thank you for coming, and you know how to contact us if that's what you want to do. But we're going to sort of open it up to a question to you that you can, it's a question for a question. I'll trade you a question for a question. Do you have any questions about our design process for the show? Considering that that's a large part of the next course that we're doing is helping people sort of devise and make these kinds of projects and metabolize demons and ghosts at the same time. Do you have any questions for us as the designers that you'd like to ask?
Would you share about your design process for the show?
Yeah, can you be any more specific?
What was most like delightful and squishy about this design process?
Oh, thank you for that question. Thank you so much. Let me think. Let's think for a minute. So there's so many things. I loved doing this so much. This was coming out of at least for me, like a real pivotal moment in how I was approaching how I wanted to transmit information and how I wanted to teach, and being in the whole devising process was both like sometimes frustrating, sometimes really like novel and like new, because it was like this is a new way of putting things together for us together, at this point in time, it's like I feel like I'm pushing through a different genre that I haven't quite like come across before, and just the joy of really figuring out how to like make space inside this woven narrative for everything, like all the different beings that were kind of like knocking on the door, and also the real like kind of nuts and bolts of some of what we're learning about like pain science and interpretive networks in complex systems and human behavior, along with the like commercials, which were so fun, so fun. I just felt like we got to include so much more of ourselves and um in different tones inside of this whole thing in a way that it's um it's hard to do that in other settings or other ways that we've presented before. So that's kind of a wide view, but
I think for me, I don't know, like it's all fun. I think this way of metabolizing and doing like data management essentially. I mean, that's essentially what's happening is like stories are kind of like data management, weirdly enough. But you know, the idea that like you can actually do everything. It just takes time. It just takes time and cleverness, and you really have to like chew on stuff. And but then you can just add more and more densely complex layers to any given scene or paragraph or something or idea, essentially. Um, and I think for me, like things like once you have a rough sketch of what um, your like your main idea is, like what your kind of main idea is. Okay, it's kind of like a weird magic school bus for like collapse. So it's like not lying to anyone about the fact that like this is happening, but it's also not like so fucking gloomy. So it's like you have like a kind of a main idea, this feeling that comes out that goes, yeah, let's deal with the trash island. Like it's so mythically weird. So like let's go really deal with it. Like let's go like have a fucking thing about it. And once like that, once you sort of have like a direction, then you can find these really weird adjacent like side rooms. And for me, that's like the commercials and the songs. It's like there's a way that it's not just a story because it's sometimes it breaks the fourth wall and sometimes it does this weird 360 psychedelic like trickster weirdness. And then you try to find the places where a song wants to happen, and that isn't conscious on some level because you kind of have to run through it and then like see what happens when you just kind of jibber jabber. And I think that that stuff is really fascinating. Like that part of the process is really interesting to sort of like come up with like a one or two phrase chant, and then it turns into a something bigger, and then it can become bigger and bigger. um, I think those parts are really fascinating because most of the time we're not like breaking into song, you know, in like regular life. Like we're not just like, hey, I'm
we
gonna
should
make up a
be.
fucking song about like the fact that I'm stuck in traffic. Like most people don't really do that unless you're really training in it, you know. And it's not something we normally see unless we're like watching television and it's like a musical or something.
Right, but that's the future we're rooting for, though. Yeah, that's the future we're rooting for. That's the direction. People are bursting into song about their mundane or profound circumstance.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a bunch of questions, and I don't know we'll get to all of them, but
We can do
I
some of
want
them.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's start, and maybe we'll at least like read through them and let them hang hang in the atmosphere. Okay, was there any aspect that was improvised or was it all pre-planned? Um, did you intuit any of it from spirits slash ancestors? Yeah, I mean, so for today we were mostly using a script that we created that was devised based off of a lot of different improv sessions that we had together. So we began with much more open-ended, like kind of seeing what like throwing things at the wall and seeing what stuck, and moving through open improvisation sessions that helped us kind of like spin out on certain things and try them out. And then we recorded that and we looked back at it and saw what was really working or what wasn't, what was going to work, like given the limitations of Zoom. And
Keep
yeah,
it within an hour, and you don't get to do a lot of movement. Like you have these constraints that are very necessary for practical formation of the devised process. But in the devising process itself, before you have any real structure, it's kind of all channeling. It's kind of all listening to spirits and ancestors on some level. But if I say that to just like anybody, it's like super overwhelming, right? Like that's insane what I just said. But when you have forms and practices, the practitioner can target just like a radio. Oh, I want to listen to 97.5. Oh, I want to listen to like 93.1. You can kind of turn the scanner to different places that are interesting and then see what happens. So the devising process itself is this wonderful mixture of creative intuition and spirit channeling and whatever you want to call it, and then really taking it back into the real world and say, yeah, but this has to fit in like a 45-minute window, and it's going to be like, and how are we going to do it? And like, then when we go through the script, like you're going to take that line, so I'm going to take this line, and all of that hashing out makes it actually a game you can play, because now you're playing this new game, which is like performing the script, right? So there's all these little games that you play to make something like this,
What was easy and what was hard? Yeah.
It's all hard until it's easy, man. That's my experience, is that it is hard all the time until it is easy. And then suddenly there's this moment of like flooding that comes through, and you capture it as best you can, and then it becomes hard again. It's just like this weird tangle. I don't know about your experience, Larissa, but that's my experience. It's like straining to find something, and then magically something happens, and then it just repeats itself.
Yeah, I think that maybe the difficulty is always just like centering the compass that really helps you, like the set of principles that really helps you in being in like remaining in contact with the like stream that's trying to come through. And it's like it's what I think a lot of people are familiar with, like anybody who's an artist, right? Where it's like as soon as you get overly attached to something, as soon as you think you know how something needs to go, or you start to like kind of close down in an excessive way, you just kind of waste a lot of energy like butting up against certain walls. And like, we get confused or we get lost in the middle of it, because I mean, my immediate answer to this question was like, oh yeah, the hardest thing was just doing this in the fucking social, cultural, capitalist context that we're doing it in, for real. It was like the limit, both of our disability limitations that we have with sickness and chronic pain, and living in a city with, not having access to like the kinds of spaces and resources and like social connection that would make this kind of thing more available or like more doable. So this stubbornness is required in a lot of ways in order to just like keep like do it anyway, and keep finding the integrity inside of it anyway, even though it's really easy to really feel the hardness of the context. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that sort of like management is kind of like on some pith level, like that's all trauma data, that's all trauma science is good for. It's like managing the oppression Olympics around us. Like on some level, it's like a kind of like, oh, let's manage that. We have this weird system that like doesn't really serve anybody. So like all of that, like polyvagal this and polyvagal that, it's like it's good only to a point. And it's like what I'm saying is like, yeah, it's useful to sort of manage oppression on some level, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
you
but it
gotta-
doesn't really get you the thing that you're actually wanting, which is like the inspiration. So that's the other thing. It's like you
Yeah.
do all this like management, but you also have to do the practices that like allow this openness of wholeness to happen where you no longer are worried about management.
Yep.
But that's not the same thing as what people peddle as healing, because all of those ghosts are still in the room when I do that. They're still there, but I'm saying, yeah, get in line because we're gonna fucking do a show, ghost. Like, let's do a fucking show instead of like this personal bullshit story of like, oh, my ancestors, you know, it's like, no. I'll just have a child in there named Kid Darwin who really needs to get his fucking eyes ripped out of his fucking head. And like that is real, right? Haven't you wanted to do that to somebody who was like that? Survival of the fittest and all this nonsense, all lobsters. We're just fucking lobsters, people. So how do I do that and then also make it like PG, right? Because if I was doing like a clown show, like I like to do, it would be R-rated. You know, it would be like an R-rated version of that kind of thing, which is different. But there's like a gamut. You can go, oh, let's just make this kind of like weird Muppets, or yeah, man, fuck yeah, I'll channel the fucking crufty ghost of Jordan Peterson. What do you mean he's not already dead? You know, and like not lose any of my shit about it, like not get, you know, it's like whatever. Like there's no problem. There doesn't have to be. It's like, oh, you want people to do this. Like there, you clearly want people to poke all the holes in your story, you know, otherwise you wouldn't be so ridiculous. Right. And so then there has to be a call and response, and artists have to do that in the world. We have to go, this is silly, this is hilarious, I'll make a movie, you know, like whatever, I'll do a thing.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot more in the course about where we're going with, like, what is the current modern honest version of what humans used to do for thousands and thousands of years in like specific places in relationship with specific ecologies. Part of what they were doing was contributing to the vitality of places by um, mirroring, reflecting, honoring, and like emphasizing different aspects of the local ecology, of the phenomena that they were seeing, feeling, both tangible and intangible. And you obviously, like, we're really still doing that very much so. I mean, think of how massive the like arts industry is in terms of like movies and film in the US and stuff. We're really obsessed with like this reflective quality and getting to watch things play out. So the impetus is still really there and very, very strong, but what we are reflecting and our understanding of the power of that reflection is missing, which is why you get so much like irresponsible
Right.
television and entertainment out there that's not actually like, doesn't actually host this very deep responsibility to the like well-being of everything. Like, what is your art making actually feeding? Right, we don't have this kind of consciousness. People are really getting lost in their own basically like their own obsessions about what they want to reflect. So we're going to get a lot more into that, I think, in the course.
Yeah, like performance is like most of what we see in the world today is like 99.9% like human-centered stories about human problems and human joy and triumph. And most of the time in indigenous cultures, the human is decentered, and the humans are representing all of these other beings in the ecosystem. So it's like a representative kind of performative dialogue rather than, oh, let me tell you Shakespeare for the 10,000th time. It's like, no, I think I need to listen to what these trees are saying. And then this kind of song comes up, and then I integrate that into the larger ritual, theater aspect. So, part of it is like not being so human centered, just decentering the human, the anthropo, blah, blah, blah.
So
Yeah.
I think I really want to try. I don't know what this is in me, but I just want to like see if I can ping off like really pith answers to these questions. And
Okay,
then
lightning round.
Paul's had their hand up for a while, so I want to get to
Right,
Paula.
right. Paula's going to be, but
Yeah.
lightning round these questions.
Okay. Any literature you recommend looking more into these concepts? Does the website you provided in the beginning have the definitions of the terminology? Love this experience. Yeah, great. So there's a long list of literature probably that touches on different parts of what we talked about, but we are very much kind of galaxying a lot of different things together that are based on both our inspiration and passion, but also what we have learned as space holders, facilitators, people working with trauma and also spirit work. So there's a lot of stuff coming together. So there's nothing I can say to you that's short in this moment about like where to go. The website has, I don't think really has like a list of terminology that we used. We have a handbook that we've developed over the years that has some of this stuff written out, but more terminology lists is part of something we're developing. Great.
It's also a very double-edged sword to
It
want
is a very
that.
double because it's always context specific. So like, yeah, so there's layers to it. Do you start from the concepts that you want to teach and then come up with creative vehicles, or do creative vehicles come to you and you realize it's perfect for concepts you want to teach? It's both. It's definitely both. And it's just about listening and kind of following both directions, all directions. Yeah, we would love to do a live version someday, for sure. Great, yay. Yes, welcome. Do you ever envision adding other players, performers, collaborators in the future, unrelated future projects? I mean, fuck yeah, we totally we want like epic choruses and group bodies and collaborators for sure. Yes. Yay, gotta go. Yeah, thanks, Catherine Rose. Ask my ancestors to guide you to books. Oh, that's been happening for like 15 years. It's okay. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is response. But yeah, anyway,
Oh, good job.
there's lots of
Yeah,
books in the world.
sure.
There's
Yeah,
wonderful
there's
books.
lots. Yeah,
But
and
none of them will ever, like, there's no like, oh, just these 3 books. It's not gonna happen.
yeah, but that's a very good strategy, you know. Feel for the spark when you go to the library, you look online, whatever. All right. Paula, you're still here.
Yeah. I'm just curious to hear more about inspirations for Grandma Red. Was that the name? Yeah. I just want you to talk more about that character.
Yeah, Grandma Red. I mean, Paula, I feel like maybe you were one of the inspirations for Grandma Red. I really like feel you so close in that. Yeah, Grandma Red. She definitely came to me as like a very clear being. She had this certain kind of body. She had the fishnet skirt. She really came as the like we knew I think we were recording for a while, like this sense that we needed an element or a creature that was gonna really like hold it down, like a non-human presence that was gonna hold down like the deepest wisdom, as it was able to be expressed um, through like an individual being. Just looking at the yeah. Yeah, and we kind of I like in my mind I was toying with different options, like different places that they would visit in order to like really receive the real teaching. And she just really it just really started to land in like an inexplicable way as soon as we started on that roller coaster of like, oh, we're gonna talk about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and we did all this research, and like the thing we read was based on, just came like right from the internet. um yeah, in this moment all I can say is that it was very much like she needed to be like a massive gravity well in the story, but also specifically on Garbage Patch Island, where um we start to get into some of the like gnarlier realities of what we're all dealing with as a like on as beings on a planet, and all the um kind of all the horrors and beauties that are blooming as a result of that um like new oceanic presence that is going to be here for many, many years. Let me see if there's anything else from her. Do you want to say more about like how you felt her?
Oh, it was just a wonderful character. I just really resonated. Surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the combining of the different creatures was really exciting for me. Yeah, especially that element. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking to that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
Grandma Red deserves her own like talk show.
I agree.
The Grandma Red Show. Come on down.
Yeah.
Garbage Patch Island. Yeah, no, it's true.
She's a linchpin though. She's definitely a linchpin. Like I think the integrity of the depth of what the show was transmitting like would not be possible in the same way without somebody like her. So, there's like other people and other presences that are part of that inspiration, but I think it's something that is it's a kind of presence that's missing in a lot of places, and it needs our attention, and it needs our creative attention and our ancestral memory to bring it to life more and more, even if we don't have grandmas like that in our lives, or whatever. It doesn't matter, like that presence is still there, that quality is still in the environment, and very much like wants to be alive. Yeah, exactly. The elder I wish I had. Yeah, me too, for sure. Well, now you have one.
Right.
Grandma Red is here.
Instead of whining about it.
Grandma Red is here.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay. Thank you all for sticking in there a little
Yeah,
longer.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. I always like to end just with a moment of gratitude and blessing to all beings. I feel a real kind of like festival of beings, like waking up as we're in the space together. So may that be a gift, a blessing, a nourishment in all directions, into the ground, into the air, into the horizons, all directions, all around, all realms, all beings, benefiting, learning, accumulating wisdom and possibility for the greatest possible outcome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop recording now.